As we approach the end of 2022, it is a great time to reflect on the progress of the many rail projects across Canada. Join us as we go from coast to coast and check on the work completed this year. Let's start in Vancouver, home of the SkyTrain. The Broadway Subway project will extend the Millennium Line from VCC Clark to Arbutus Station, bringing the SkyTrain further west. The 5.7-kilometer extension and its 6 stations are officially underway. Tunneling started on October 7 for the eastbound tunnel, with the westbound tunnel boring to start in the last week of the year. Surface work is also ongoing to prepare the necessary land for the construction of the new stations, as the relevant properties are cleared. For the elevated segment, half of the necessary piers have already been completed to this date. On November 24th, it was officially announced that the line opening was delayed from the expected late 2025 to 2026. This is due to the strike that affected a concrete plan in the Lower Mainland that immobilized many of the work sites and delayed the launch of the tunnel boring machine. In parallel to the Broadway Subway project, planning work continues on a proposed extension to UBC, adding another 5 stations and bringing the SkyTrain to UBC's campus. As of now, no definitive timeline has been announced as the project is partly funded for now. Adding another 16 kilometers of elevated tracks to the Expo line, the Surrey Langley SkyTrain project will connect the city of Langley to the current terminus at King George. Utilities relocation and preparatory work has commenced earlier this year, while the various requests for qualifications and proposals are ongoing. Construction is expected to start in 2024 and for the line to open in late 2028. In Calgary, Stage 1 of the Green Line will build 20 kilometers of new tracks between Sheppard and 16th Avenue, the first step in building the 46-kilometer total length of the Green Line. While utilities relocation is ongoing, the delivery partner was selected in November 2022, while the development partner is expected to be selected in early 2023. This will then lead to a 12-month development phase before the start of major works. Phase 1 of the Green Line is expected to open in 2027, with the stations at 9th and 16th Avenue expected to open at a later date. While the first phase of Edmonton's Valley Line was expected to open in late 2022, its opening was delayed indefinitely to address developing cracks in 30 of the piers that support the elevated guideway. In an update published by Transed on November 18, it was revealed that the scale of the remediation work is larger than initially expected back in September. With the root cause investigation completed earlier this month, we now know that the internal rebar structure of those piers was not properly designed in some cases, leading to the stress fractures. Remediation work is underway and is expected to continue over the coming months. In the meantime, testing continues using the line's Bombardier Flexity Freedom train sets on the at-grade sections. Assuming the remediation work is effective, the first phase is expected to open in 2023, though no new official timeline has been announced by Transed. Phase 2 Valley Line West is underway as the necessary infrastructure work has started earlier this year. This includes a large variety of road work, bridge replacement, and other impacts on traffic to allow for the displacement of utilities and the construction of the guideway. In addition to the ongoing works, procurement was completed for the additional rolling stock needed, leading to the acquisition of Hyundai Rotem trams. The extension is expected to open by the end of 2027. The Metro Line Northwest extension will extend the line to the city limits of Edmonton in 3 phases. Phase 1 extends the line one stop further to Blatchford. Work is ongoing to build the track platform, finish the early works, and prepare for the installation of the catenary, paving the way for track installation and testing. The one-stop extension is expected to open in 2024 or 2025. Design work also continues on the second and third phase, with no exact timeline for the construction. However, they have been added as a priority for the City of Edmonton earlier this year, paving the way for procurement to start once funding is available. The Capital Line South extension will bring the Capital Line further south into different phases. Phase 1, which includes a 4.5-kilometer extension from Century Park to Ellerslie, is underway as preparatory work continues throughout 2023. The process to select the design-build partner is ongoing, with the selection to be announced in early 2023. Major works are expected to start in 2024, with the extension expected to open by the end of 2027. Design work also continues for Phase 2, which will extend the line further south to Des Rochers, though no funding has been allocated to the project yet. In the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area, a lot of projects are ongoing, and many more are in the procurement phases. After being revived in 2021, the Hamilton LRT project is about to enter the procurement phase as the design and integration works continues to take place. Construction is expected to start in less than 2 years on the 14-kilometer line and its 17 stops. No official timeline for its opening has been announced. Work has ramped up considerably for the Hurontario LRT between Port Credit and Brampton. Flood walls, utility relocation, and other various works to allow for the guideway to be built have progressed considerably this year. After the completion of most of the preparatory work along Hurontario Street, track installation started in September, while the guideway construction progresses in other areas. Work has also progressed considerably on the elevated segments of the line. For the first time in a Canadian project, push boxes were used to put in place a brand new underpass under the Queen Elizabeth Way at the end of October. A similar technique is being utilized at Port Credit Go, as the push box is expected to be put in place by the end of December. This allows for the tracks to go under the existing main line and connect the terminal station of the line with the existing GO station. The operations, maintenance and storage facility located next to Highway 407 is expected to be substantially completed before the end of the year. This will allow for testing to start as more of the Alstom Citadis Spirit train sets are delivered to the facility. Metrolinx expect the 18-kilometer line to be completed by 2024. After an official groundbreaking ceremony in March, the Ontario Line works commenced on the southern portion of the line, with preparatory work at Exhibition, the new Donyard, and throughout downtown. Tendering is started in November 2022 for the north segments construction package, which will include both tunneling and elevated sections and should be completed by the end of 2023. More work sites will become active in 2023 as construction and tunneling gets underway in the downtown segments of the Ontario Line. In November, we also got a first look at the proposed design for the new rolling stock that will be utilized on the line, built by Hitachi Rail as part of the SIX consortium. The high-flow rolling stock will be fully automated, offer onboard Wi-Fi, passenger information displays, USB charging ports, and a fully accessible layout. This will be the first time Hitachi Rail train sets are used in Canada. The 15.6-kilometer automated subway should open by 2030, though the date might be reviewed once the other contracts are finalized. Progress on the Finch West LRT has been significant in 2022, with track installation progressing throughout the alignment. More than 35% of the tracks are already installed, and more than half of the 11 kilometers of track slab constructed. Testing using the Citadis Spirit train set is happening on the completed segments at increasing speed. As more sections are completed, testing will expand in 2023. Work also continues at all the stations. The first canopies were installed at Driftwood in late October, with most of the structural steel completed at Finch West. The maintenance and storage facility is in the process of being commissioned, with 8 trains already on site as of November 2022. Most of the trackside power substations are installed and will be commissioned once the catenary installation is completed. Finch West LRT is expected to open in 2023. Following additional delays, work continues on the Eglinton Crosstown to deliver the 19-kilometer line between Kennedy and Mount Dennis. Crosslinks Transit Solutions has fell considerably behind schedule, a result of supply line issues and other factors that have delayed substantial parts of the project. Regardless of the delays, significant milestones have been achieved, with the train testing progressing throughout the alignment in July 2022. Work along the line and its stations continues, though no official expected completion date has been suggested since the announcement in September. Bringing the line further west, Crosstown West is another important project along Eglinton. After issuing the tunneling contract in early 2022 to build the twin-bore tunnel for Crosstown West between Renfort and Scarlett, the first tunnel boring machine was launched in April 22 and the second in August. Another request for proposals was issued in April 2022 to build a second tunnel which will connect Mount Dennis to Jing. The contract for this proposal should be finalized in early 2023. For the elevated sections of the line, the request for proposals was issued in April 2022 to build the elevated structures, with the qualified bidders working on the proposal. As the structural and tunneling contracts are being awarded, many more contracts will remain. The stations, guideway, and systems are still not procured for both the underground and above ground stations. At this time, no definitive timeline has been announced for those procurement to proceed. Metrolinx targets a 2030-2031 opening for the project, though it is highly dependent on funding and the timeline for the remaining contracts to be awarded. The Yonge North Subway Extension project is getting started with the early upgrades needed at Finch to enable the construction of the extension. A request for qualified bidders for the tunnel's advanced work should be launched in early 2023 and allow for the procurement of the systems, rolling stock, and equipment to start at a later date. If the project progresses as planned, the extension is expected to open by 2030. The largest infrastructure program in the GTA, the GO Expansion project encompasses a large variety of works to improve frequencies and services throughout the GO train network. For the sake of simplicity, we will focus on the on-corridor works, the largest part of the required work. This includes operations, rolling stock acquisition, design and build of the corridor, maintenance, new facilities, and additional works on the track at Union Station. There is a lot more to the GO Expansion project, so I encourage you to go consult the project page on the Metrolinx website. In April 2022, the contract for the on-corridor works between Metrolinx and OnExpress Transportation Partners was completed, allowing for the development phase to begin. This phase should last 2 years and lead to the start of the related works throughout the network. As part of this, work will begin to upgrade signaling and allow for the implementation of ERTMS for the first time in North America. Once the relevant work is completed, the increased frequencies and electrification of service will be implemented in phases between 2025 and 2032. The 3-stop Scarborough subway extension continues to see progress, as tunneling for the 7.8 km tunnel between Sheppard and Kennedy should start in early 2023, as work continues on the head wall of the station needed for the tunneling to advance. Diggy's Cardust is the largest TBM to be used in Canada, with a width of 11.9 meters and will allow for the single tunnel to be needed for the extension. In parallel to this, the request for proposals for the stations, rail, and system contracts closed at the end of July. The retained partner has not yet been announced, though it should be in early 2023. The extension to Line 2 is expected to open by 2030. Ottawa has also seen a lot of progress on the 3 extension of the O train network in 2022, which will add a combined 44 kilometers of tracks throughout Ottawa. In the south, construction on the new stations has progressed considerably with the structural steel and finishes getting installed at most stations. Tracks and signaling is being installed as work continues on the guideway. Earlier this year, we had the chance of seeing the brand new Stadler Flirt and the new Walkley Yard. Line 2 was supposed to open in September of 2022. However, delays due to COVID and supply chain issues have pushed the opening timeline to the end of 2023. The east extension of Line 1 has seen significant milestones, with major works well underway. This includes track installation that started earlier this year and has progressed considerably. Construction at the 5 new stations is well underway, many of them being structurally complete and the finishes being installed. While there's been some schedule pressure on the extension, the east extension of Line 1 is still expected to open by the end of 2024 or early 2025. In the west, significant scheduling pressures have led to considerable delays. Progress is quite visible for all the elements. The cut and cover tunnel excavation and construction continues along Richmond Road, with some parts ready to be covered in the coming weeks. Work at all the stations has progressed quite well, with some already having their structure built out and, in some cases, some of the finishes being installed. The west extension to Moody and Algonquin was originally supposed to open in late 2025, but has been pushed back to late 2026. In Montreal, 2 big projects are underway, the Réseau Express Métropolitain and the Blue Line extension. The Réseau Express Métropolitain saw a lot of progress in 2022. In August, we had the opportunity to visit the future stops at Gare Centrale, McGill, and the light maintenance and storage facility in Brossard. Even though the opening of the South Branch was ultimately delayed to spring 2023, all the infrastructure work has been completed, with the bus transfer facilities at Panama opening earlier this month. The guideway installation was completed earlier this year and allowed for the very first train over the new Samuel de Champlain Bridge in July. In the coming months, rail fans can expect to see increased testing as the RAM transitions from high-speed dynamic testing towards a dress rehearsal of the regular service pattern. Work also continued for the other branches of the RAM. The tunneling was completed on the airport branch, with the TBM removed from the site. Most of the elevated guideway has been completed as the build-out continues towards De Montagne and Ansalon. Work continues in the Mont-Royal Tunnel to modernize the Centennial Tunnel and make it ready to see passengers again. Throughout the network, the structural steel at most stations has been completed, with many of them seeing the installation of finishes. The REM is expected to open in phases over the coming years. The South Branch in spring 2023, the Ansalon and De Montagne branches before the end of 2024, and the airport branch at an undetermined date. Work has also started on the 5.8 km extension of the Blue Line, which will bring it to Anjou. Preliminary work has started on the new segment to prepare and obtain the necessary land required to build the new stations. In April 2022, the procurement for a TBM to build the tunnel has been launched, with the results expected by the end of the year. Should everything stay on track, the extension is expected to open in 2029, bringing the Montreal Metro further east for the first time since 1986. In Quebec City, 2022 has been quite a year for its tramway project. Preparatory work in various parts of the city continues to relocate utilities from the current location and allow for the guideway platform to be built as quickly as possible. The city still awaits the final approval of the modified east segment of the tramway between Saint-Roch and Destimoville. Approval is expected in the final weeks of the year. In April, the RFP for the rolling stock acquisition and another for the construction of the necessary infrastructure was launched, with the preferred bidders preparing their plan for the proposed alignment. The selected partners should be announced later this year and in early 2023 respectively, for work to start in 2023. Utilities relocation and other ongoing works are expected to continue until 2024. The planned replacement of the 4 Bourgeois overpass over Autoroute Henri IV has been completed and has the necessary space to allow for the guideway construction to begin. Work has also started on clearing the land needed for the maintenance and storage facility located next to the future terminus at Legendre. Quebec's first tramway line is expected to open in 2028. One last project that is expected to span between Quebec City and Toronto, High Frequency Rail, has started its procurement process in March 2022 to find a private partner to help design, finance, operate, and maintain more frequent passenger rail service. By the end of May, 50 industry partners have signaled interest into the project, leading up to the request for qualification expected to start in early 2023. As of now, there is no definitive timeline on when High Frequency Rail could start operating. We hope you enjoyed this coast-to-coast update on the progress of rail projects in Canada. We also invite you to visit railfans.ca to visit our ever-increasing collection of updates regarding Ottawa's O Train, Montreal's REM and Metro, and various other projects. Make sure to subscribe to Railfans Canada so you do not miss our future videos.